sir. Yes, sir. Unc football, big stepper, Unc and Few, man. Season 3,
Mm.
episode 4. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. And you know
We
what?
are
We gonna make the
here.
show. Yes, sir. How you doing, Unc? How you doing, Unc?
It's week 4, man. I can't believe it. We're a month into the NFL season already. It's beautiful
Straight.
weather. Like this weather, this time of year in this part of the country, it's almost perfect, right? It's like 22, 23 degrees, 70 plus, all kinds of sunshine, no humidity, no wind. I mean, it's just perfect.
I'm telling you, man. Something about late September, early October in our
Yeah.
region. It's just like it's good. It's not too cold, not too hot. You can wear a jacket. Sometimes you can wear a t-shirt. You know what I mean? It's a good vibe, man. I rock with it, and it's especially important for you, man, because we got to talk about last week's slate of games, man. Week 3 football as we come to week 4
Yeah.
football, and I'm gonna say it right now. We have one of the best YouTube football shows in this place, man. We have one of the best pregame shows. I'm calling it right now, and we need to have Unc talk about his man's. You got to talk about your man's, and you know what time it is. We're talking about the one and only Mr. Justin Fields with a sexy pass
Yeah, man.
that he had up the middle. His timing is getting a lot better. Very few turnovers. I think he's only had one pick this entire year, and it was
Yeah.
maybe flukish. I'm really impressed with what this guy Justin Fields is bringing to the table. And if y'all don't know it already, he's the starter in Pittsburgh, bro.
Yeah.
It's his job to lose. Let's go, bro. What do you think, man?
Oh man, well, obviously as a Steelers fan, I'm super excited to see a 3-0 record. The defense firing on all cylinders, and
So,
we've got somebody who's just not making mistakes. He's a
mm,
long, long way from Ben Roethlisberger, or somebody like that. He's just operating the offense at a super productive rate. He's not like that at all. But the biggest
mm,
thing we need right now, given what Arthur Smith wants, what Tomlin wants, all they want is mistake-free football and a run-first offense. So that's really good. So that what it basically means for Justin Fields right now is that when he does throw the ball, he's throwing it at a high completion rate, like 75%. So
yes,
that
sir.
makes him super efficient right now. I think he's only got 3 or 2 thrown touchdowns, but he's only got one pick, right? And he doesn't have a lot of sacks or anything like that. And you'd think he might have more running numbers, but he doesn't. But when he needs to run, he does. So let me give you the skinny on Justin Fields. He's got a 73% completion rate, a
Mm,
97 QBR, which is pretty respectable.
mm,
Two TDs, one interception, right? He's really, really quite efficient and not really like doing a whole bunch of productivity on his own. But because the Steelers defense is only yielding 10 points a game, he doesn't have to do much. So there he is at 3-0. And
mm.
Tomlin is doing his very, very best to keep any type of QB controversy in the Steelers clubhouse. He's trying to keep it out of there, and he's doing a very, very good job of it. And he's actually having some kind of fun with the reporters, because the reporters are like, basically asking him to, name him, and he's like, "Why would I name him?" Right? It's like Russ is our starting
Yes.
QB. Russ is our starting QB. He's injured. We'll let you know if there's a change. And meanwhile,
Yeah.
Tomlin just keeps him on the injured list for however long he needs him, keeps the controversy out of it. Tomlin is a very interesting diplomat and politician.
Tomlin is straight up a master manipulator. I feel bad. It
It's
is what it is.
great.
But it works as a football coach because everybody and their mom knows that Russ can play, at least in my opinion, because I see him suited up. So he's on the injured reserve, or he's at least inactive, but he's
Yeah.
suited up. Okay.
No,
And
no,
he
he's
has,
suited up, and I think he's just on the bench now, right?
yeah.
And,
So he's on the
yeah.
bench. But you know what you said was right. if your defense is keeping the other teams at less than 10 or 10 points exactly, you just need your quarterback not to ruin the game for you, man. I was really, really impressed with what the Steelers did against a team I really liked, the Chargers, man. They made the
Yeah.
Chargers look very,
Let
very,
me just let
very
me just let me just say one last thing though
for sure.
about Fields and his numbers. Last
Mhm.
week, his numbers were actually quite better. I think he threw like for
Yeah.
250 or 275 or something like that last weekend. So it looks like they're about to start opening up the playbook a little bit. So I think you're going to
Mhm.
see Justin Fields' numbers, and the plays that he completes are going to be a little bit riskier. I think they're going to go a little bit further downfield. Like, let me tell you who he reminds me of. Believe it or
Who?
not,
Oh,
is
Lamar?
no, like 50 years ago, Terry Bradshaw, back when the game was so different, when the way the Steelers are playing right now is how they
Okay.
played the whole season back then.
Oh,
Right? Like they
okay.
were just starting to get Stallworth and Lynn Swan and those guys going, right? But this is
Mhm.
how it would go: is that the Steelers would play great defense, and they would,
Mhm.
they would play awesome run game stuff, right? And then when they
Mhm.
needed to in the third and fourth quarter, Terry Bradshaw could throw it 60 yards downfield. Fields can do that, but just
Mhm.
not all game long. So it's really remarkable with this defensive and low scoring games how much the Steelers of the early 70s resemble this Steelers team right now. So it's just a
Oh,
coincidence, right? I mean, it's not going to go like that. They're going to have games where they have to score 3 or 4 touchdowns if they're going to win. But for the time
yes.
being, right now, early in the season, these modern 2024 Steelers look like the 1972 Steelers. It's really
I
funny.
mean, you know what's crazy? You don't see it like we talked about this earlier. We're not seeing a lot of explosive big score games. Now we did see a few, you know what I mean,
Not yet.
recently. But we are not seeing we're seeing defensive run type of games. And if you coming in, you better come in and smash that like button and share with all your friends, your family, your foes, whoever you want to share it with. But I'm seeing a resurgence of the flop or bust quarterback. And another person who really exemplifies that, brother, is Sam freaking Darnold, man. Who would have
Oh
thought
man,
that
he's
Sam
like,
Darnold is
wow.
probably playing the best quarterback right now in the entire league. He leads the league with 8 passing touchdowns, and he looks the part, brother. The Minnesota Vikings absolutely crushed. Who would have guessed this score? 34-7. Who would have
No,
guessed?
right?
Who in their right mind would have guessed that score? Donald looking like
Yep.
franchise quarterback. I hate to say it. I might say it early, but he looking franchise quarterback ish.
Well,
Unc, what you take on this, man?
once again, we decided that we were going to talk about 3 quarterbacks this week who are
Gotcha.
in different situations, who are looking better than they have in the past. One of
Mm,
which was also Geno Smith, right?
what's up?
All three teams have their defenses rocking right now. And so it's
Mm,
giving all three of these quarterbacks space to operate the offense as their coaches would like them to do, right? So
mm,
Sam Darnold isn't playing on the Jets anymore or Carolina. He was on the 49ers, but didn't really get a chance to play. So he now finally is playing on a team with a balanced offense and defense with quality players around him. Like Sam Darnold is in a whole new world, right? Just as Justin
yeah,
Fields is. So Sam Darnold right now, yeah, he looks like one. He's a top 5 quarterback right now, in a lot of respects. You would think
no,
he
yeah.
would have more. You'd think he would have more actual passing yardage, but that's the
Mm,
fun part about this is that he's been actually very efficient, right? Good
yeah,
completion record. Very few picks, 2 picks, and like you said, eight thrown touchdowns, right? So he's doing really well that way, and he's not afraid to go downfield. So his QBR is around 117. So of
mm,
the 3 quarterbacks, he's got the best numbers by far. And isn't it fascinating that he pretty much looks like Kirk Cousins looked when he was playing for the Vikings before he got injured? right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
this is
Yes.
the thing I want to actually tell you about Sam Darnold, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give it to the Vikings system and coaching staff. I'm sorry.
That's
What they've done is they've taken they've taken a physically gifted, quarterback who up until now hasn't really done that well, but he's had his chance to play, right? And now he's in a good system. Because who are we talking about here? Kevin O'Connell is our head coach.
yeah.
Who is Kevin O'Connell, right? Kevin O'Connell is a QB whisperer. You guys
Yes,
realize
he
that
is.
Kevin O'Connell was Kirk Cousins' coach in Washington?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he is, man. Listen, there's all kinds of great stuff here. Um, and then, of course, obviously, we've got Brian Flores in Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
So he's doing fantastic. He should be a head coach somewhere, but we all know he has his own, lawsuit and things like that going on.
I think it might be in the Giants. Giants next year. I don't know. I don't know. That's a prediction. That's a Nostradamus prediction. But Brian
Right.
Flores,
Okay. But let me tell you even more about Kevin O'Connell. Right. His offensive coordinator is a guy named Wes Phillips. You know who Wes Phillips is? I didn't know this until I put the names together.
I have no idea.
He's the son of Wade Phillips, the head coach, and the
Oh,
grandson
uh-huh.
of Bum Phillips, the legendary Houston Oilers quarterback from the late 70s.
Oh,
All of these guys are big quarterback guys. They're all big offensive guys. The Phillips family is an offensive. So there's all kinds of great coaching in the Viking system right now. So it's not a coincidence that Sam Darnold is overperforming based on his, versus his career to this point. So you got to be really, really happy with Sam Darnold, right? So yeah, you got to be really, So he's
nice.
looking like a winner right now. So fantastic. But I think it's systems based,
And
right?
that's why I remember a few years ago. I don't know if it was last year or like maybe the year before, but the Vikings went on like some crazy 10-game winning streak, and they were winning games by a hair, like literally
Yeah.
somehow getting wins. And then it came to the playoffs, and then Kirk Cousins, he turned into a pumpkin. He turned into who he really was, and they
Yeah.
lost in the first
Well, the
to
playoffs are different.
game.
We've always said
They
that
are.
the playoffs are different.
My thing is, I think, like you said, the coaching has made a massive difference. And we're gonna get to the third player that we're gonna talk about, and that's Geno Smith. His numbers are not high, but the Seahawks in general are playing amazing football because
Right.
of their new coach, Mike McDonald. And this is not
Yep.
a a hit on, Pete Carroll, because Pete Carroll was a great coach too, but you have to sometimes renew that locker room. You have to sometimes jump. It's
Yes.
no coincidence
Yes.
they're 3-1, 3-0, my bad. Everybody in the Ravens fan base wanted Mike McDonald to stay as our defensive coordinator because we knew we had something special there. You look at the Ravens defense this year, it is a shell of itself. It is not good. It is it's basically his games. But the
And
Seattle
and the
Seahawks have
Seahawks
somebody special
and the
called
Seahawks
Mike
defense.
McDonald, and they are good. Their defense is really good.
The
Their team
the
is really
Seahawks, yeah, the Seahawks defense
yeah,
is doing
bad.
a lot to make Geno Smith better.
Yes, it is.
That's in fact, like I was saying, Geno Smith is sort of like in between the two poles between
Mhm.
Justin Fields, not really having to do much because his defense is so rocking, and
Mhm.
the offensive centric system that is in Minnesota that's just destined to score tons of points and be productive. And then they've got Brian Flores as well.
Yes,
In the
sir.
middle is the Seahawks, where they have some pretty productive offense thanks to Geno Smith. But a lot of the points are actually coming from their defense. I think their defense has almost as many touchdowns as Geno Smith. But Geno Smith
Mhm.
is actually like a top 5 quarterback right now at this
Yes, sir.
moment. Like simply, he's got like he's number 4 in total yards, like throwing yards, 787 yards, significantly
Yeah.
more than Darnold, right? More than
Yes.
Darnold. Like,
Way
yeah,
more. Yeah.
75% completion rate. So he's also very efficient.
Mm,
94 QBR, so a little bit slightly less than Fields, but still very competent, right? Um,
yes.
but it's not an efficient offense. Not really efficient. They're getting a lot of volume, 7.5 yards per completion. So it's all pretty good. But the defense is what's really helping Seattle right now. But all three quarterbacks are 3-0. And if you were to have a pool about which three quarterbacks and which teams would be 3-0 to start this season, it wouldn't be any of these ones.
Nobody and even their mama thought that these three
Okay. Yeah,
quarterbacks,
even their mother
even
wouldn't
their
have predicted
mothers
this.
did not predict that Sam Darnold, Justin Fields and Geno
Yeah.
Smith would be running a 3-0 team heading into month number
Yeah.
2 of NFL football. Nobody expected that. But that's the beauty of football, man. You can't guess. You can't just go by. You can definitely go by
Yep.
intuition. You can definitely go by what you see, what you feel, what you researched. But that's why we love the game, because the game is unpredictable, and the
Always
game will
different
have
every
you
year.
thinking. Right? And my thing is, I got to talk about one team that kind of really surprised me, and I want to get your point of view on this. It's kind of on our slate, but not really on our slate. You know what I mean? I think this game was one of the most entertaining games that I watched last week, and that was the Washington Commanders versus the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep.
Bengals 0-3. Who would have thought that? And the Washington Commanders are at the top of the NFC East with a 2-1 record, led by, we might have not seen this guy coming, Jaden Daniels, brother.
For
What are
all
your
our
thoughts,
talk.
man?
Yep.
Yeah, what are
For
your
all
thoughts,
our
brother?
talk. Well, we're a little bit
Mm,
biased about rookie quarterbacks, so
we are,
I
we
did.
are.
So we're not overhyping those guys to begin with. But let me
Mm,
tell you, yeah, I watched Jaden Daniels for the first time the other evening in this game, and
yeah,
I'll grant you, like Cincinnati's defense is absolutely terrible, but that's not the point.
so
Jaden
bad.
Daniels is completing 80% of his passes. Now he's not throwing a ton of
Mhm.
them, right? But
Yeah,
more than anything, he's just a superb, gifted athletic quarterback. Because again, he's another sort of like Lamar, Josh Allen type of prototype. His
yes,
legs
sir.
are outstanding. So for fantasy, he's amazing. He's one of the top fantasy quarterbacks right now as a rookie because the guy is lightning quick. He's quicksilver when he's running. When
Mm,
he ran for a touchdown, they had like they tried, I think, Brian Robinson a couple times to get him in the end zone, and it was
yeah,
just kind of struggling. So all they did was just go for a quarterback sneak. It was just like Quicksilver across the line. They just like boom, snap, boom in the end zone. So he's just really quite amazing. And he's also got a really feathery long ball too that just sort of drops in the bucket. He's
that
really,
pass
really
to Terry
quite.
McLaurin. Did you see that? I think 60-yard bomb. I was so impressed. It was on
He's
the money.
yeah. So yeah, Jaden Daniels is looking. He's not the. I don't think he's the rookie MVP that we had imagined, but he looks like he could well be it.
He's coming in his stride, man. And you know what? I'm looking at, think about the Commanders, man. The last competent quarterback they had was Kirk Cousins. Like,
Yeah,
how long
yeah,
ago was that? You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Well, it's been
And
a
Washington has so
messy.
much history. They it sucks that they haven't had a QB for a while. You know what I mean?
It's been a messy team for a long time. Like it really has been. But right now, with this quarterback, you look how Terry McLaurin suddenly came alive again,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
because he's been frustrating for a couple of years. Because Scary Terry's a great player, but he's had nobody to deliver the ball to him. So now he's got that, right? You've also got Ertz is looking okay. Eckler,
Mm.
like it's not fancy, but it works. And Brian
Oh, it definitely
Robinson has
was.
been outstanding as well too. So we're looking at he's got the pieces in place to
Mm.
win a few games this year. Certainly way more than they have in the past. Yeah, the way they look right now, I think they could easily get 7 or 8 wins, probably. Right? I mean, they're not going to go to the playoffs, but
Ooh.
well, don't let me say they
I
couldn't go
mean,
to
I
the
mean the
playoffs because
the
the
NFC
way the
the
NFC
NFC
East
East that
looks,
might make the playoffs.
they're terrible. So yeah, I think it's possible that they could sneak 7 or 8 wins this year just based on Jaden's talent alone.
Oh, absolutely. They're in a very trash division with the Cowboys, the Giants, that horrible game we had to watch.
He can
And
beat you.
he can beat you.
He can beat you the same way Lamar can beat you.
And I want to give you credit, Unc. Unc, I got to give you big credit because you were prophetic. You saw this before me. This guy, you
Yep.
called it in our preseason talk.
Yep.
The Josh Allen MVP odds are out of this roof because he's
Think
playing, ironically, way better without Stephon Diggs. The
well,
offense is smooth. He looks comfortable. He even made like kind of like a comment alluding to that in a press conference. You know what I mean? There's no people looking for
they
stats. And I'm like,
listen.
whoa,
Listen,
man.
we on our first show of the year, we were
Yes,
ahead of
sir.
the curve on this narrative. I just noticed
Mhm.
that this week I heard the word MVP starting to
Yeah,
be mentioned about Josh Allen for the exact same reasons that we mentioned on our first podcast this season. That
yes, sir.
being that given the narrative about all those receivers leaving Buffalo,
Mhm.
that he wasn't supposed to light it up this year. And in fact,
Mhm.
Josh Allen is not necessarily lighting it up this year, but Buffalo is. So he's looking like
Yeah.
the captain, the lead on a team that is going to be very, very productive. Right. And he's got decent enough numbers that, he's looking like a top 5 quarterback on a team that wasn't supposed to look this good. So therefore, the narrative is that Josh Allen is driving that team to its success. And what is an MVP if not the top dog on a team that's overachieving?
And my thing is what I like about Josh Allen this season is that little egg right over there, right next to interceptions, because that's what
Zero
always has
picks.
messed him up. Look at this, that zero, that O is important because Josh Allen, as great as he is, by the way, if anybody's tuning in, you better smash that like button. We got 3 people in the building, man.
Like and
Let's double it up.
subscribe,
Let's share.
folks. Give us that
Let's
love.
do it. Do it. Give us that love. And the thing is about Josh Allen, I've always seen this. I've always critiqued this. He finds ways to get picks and turnovers and ruins his team's chances, or his defense ruins his
Not
team's
these
chances.
days.
No,
He's
not
he's
these days.
improving. He's
Look at these
evolving.
scores. Look at these scores. They're like recently in the past, they are spanking teams. Destroyed
Well,
Miami to an incident, destroyed the
yeah.
Jags. That's kind of a shitty team, let's be honest. But they are dominating teams,
But
which is what they need to do. And he's not causing any problems. He's not doing harm, which I think is the most important part of it, right?
so Josh Allen, of course, is doing his usual things as well. He's also got 2 rushing touchdowns on top of those 7 passing touchdowns. So that's 3 touchdowns personally in each game. Like that's
Right.
pretty productive. Only 2 sacks. Only
Mhm.
2 sacks. He's only got
Mhm.
634 yards. That's 23rd overall in passing yards, but that'll probably recess, right? He's
Yeah.
got a 133 QBR. Remember, we said Sam Darnold was 117 and Geno and
Mhm.
Fields were, right around the middle, around, 98, 97, 96, right?
Mhm.
133, right? 0 picks. He's been very efficient, very productive. And he has to keep winning, though, to keep the narrative going. But the
Absolutely. Absolutely.
defense, now listen to the defense. The defense is number 5 against the rush and number 5 against the pass, and the defense has 3 TDs. So that's how you end up getting a score like 44-7 against the Jags without Allen,
Mm.
without Allen throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns himself personally,
I really
right?
like it, man. I really like what I saw. I literally right after the third or maybe even the second touchdown that Josh Allen threw, I'm like, the Jags are done. It is what it is. It's a wash. I like what he's been doing, but we got to talk about the guy on the other side of the field. And I'm sorry, man. The narrative is starting. People are talking. Trevor Lawrence, man, the
He's
second coming of
regressing.
Andrew Luck.
He is
Everybody was saying this.
regressing. He's
Everybody was
regressing.
saying everybody was saying this dude is the next coming of Peyton Manning. He's everything that and a slice of bread. But bruh,
No.
He has
He's
his team
regressing.
2-3, and he is playing so bad. They are man. There's some kind of statistic that says 0-3 football teams rarely ever make the playoffs. It's like a 5% or 10% chance. I don't know the statistics. The fact remains,
4 times since 1990.
wow. See what I'm saying,
That's
man?
it.
And for
That's
me,
it.
I'm not a hater, man. I want to see these guys succeed, but it is so night and day compared to how he was even 2 years ago, even last year.
Yeah.
What is going
No.
on with our boy, T Law, man? To talk to us, Unc. You're the
Trev.
resident Jacksonville fan, man. You gotta let us know.
Well, I've finally been convinced that Trevor Lawrence is regressing. There's something in his head right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just not confident. He's like some of these other quarterbacks were saying that he's just not playing well right now. And didn't he just sign another contract? Like, hasn't he
He
just
signed
like?
he signed he signed some like 230 he's like a top 5 paid quarterback, brother.
It's
He is getting
crazy. He
paid
just
tons of
got
money.
all the
Yeah,
money at the moment when he looks washed. He looks
absolutely.
bad.
He looks really, really bad. And that interception he threw to Hamlin, I was like, what is he thinking? And I'm you know what? You know what?
Terrible.
My thing is, I'm like, okay, you are a quarterback who's naturally gifted, of course, right? It has to be mental or something else because there are people, I'm not even joking. I saw this online that are saying Mac Jones should get some reps on the center. And I'm like, maybe if you're 0-3, man, this
Well,
is crisis territory,
he
bro.
just
And
he
you about to
just
face
keeps
Houston.
yeah, no, he just keeps regressing. Like
Yeah.
he reached a point about 2 years ago where he looked like he was ready to take another level. Then he
Yeah.
was, some people said he was a little bit injured last year. He was kind of off a little bit. Well, now he's picked
Mhm.
up right where he left off last year, and it's just not looking good at all.
It's not looking good. And the reason we bring this up is because when you have a division where the Houston Texans are clearly at the top, you know what I mean? Every
Hmm.
win is a premium, man. Every win is a premium because I don't know what it is. Doug Peterson, I think, is going to get fired. We are looking at a
He's the problem, I
situation.
think. I
You
mean,
think it's
unless
Doug? Okay, yeah.
unless Lawrence, unless Lawrence, I mean Lawrence. Like I said, I think there's some things in his head,
Yeah.
but I think part of it is that the scheme, the offense with Peterson is such that it's not giving him any confidence because
Mm,
nothing's really happening, right? I said it when you asked me about the Jags. What was that? I think last week you wanted to you
yes,
wanted to
sir.
find out whether I was a dedicated homer or whether I could be objective or not. And I said last week that I think the problem is Peterson. I'm still of that opinion overall in the macro when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I absolutely believe that Peterson's time is gone. He's ready to move on. He's never been that prolific to begin with.
My thing is when I saw what he did with Nick Foles, it kind of like gave me an illusion. I'm like, okay, you made Nick Foles really good, at least for that run. Carson Wentz, it was kind of a
It was just
disaster.
that run. He hasn't really done a whole bunch since he turned
Yeah.
Foles into something good. I mean, it's a fair bit in the rear view mirror when it comes to Doug Peterson's success
Mm.
as a coach, as the head of a program.
Well, talking about other washed players, man, Travis Kelsey, bro, what the hell is going on, man? What the hell is going on? And more specifically, I hate to say it, we've been kind of given a little been too nice to this Chiefs team. What the hell is going on with the Chiefs? Of course, they are Super Bowl. We know what they are. They are an amazing football team. But what is going on even with Mahomes? Mahomes has actually having a pedestrian start of his season.
He's
Actually,
not
very
good.
horrible start of his season. If let me give you an example. If this was the stat line for Trevor Lawrence, we'd say Trevor Lawrence is garbage. But this is the
Yeah.
stat line of a
Well,
Super Bowl champion. You know what I mean?
well,
And then you have
Patrick Mahomes.
Travis
Patrick
Kelce.
Mahomes is
Mm,
overall yards completed is slightly higher, but not by much. Yeah, no, he's
not by
got five
much.
TDs. He's got five TDs, 4 interceptions, 12 rushes for 50 yards, zero TDs rushing.
None.
So yeah, man, 4 sacks. Like he's just kind of pedestrian and mediocre right now.
Yeah.
As we've said, it's a little bit different for this guy, just given his resume, and so you would assume he's going to recess, positively and whatnot. But this is the second season like this where we've seen the offense look, not fantastic. Even when
Yeah,
they went on their run late last year, it was really more efficiency than anything else. It wasn't like they were suddenly putting up 40 points. It's just that the defense was rocking and they were being very efficient with Pacheco and Rashi Rice. Oh, and by the way, sorry about so
that was it.
you were asking me about Rashi Rice last weekend versus Nico Collins. I mean, Nico Collins is still like the better pick, but not by much.
Yeah,
Rashi Rice
not by
is
much.
like
Rasheed Rice is amazing.
he's the
If he
main
come in the
guy right
debate,
now. He's
yeah, it's
the
becoming a
only guy
debate.
who's producing anything right now is Rashi
Yeah,
Rice.
he's the best part of their offense right now, and I hate to say it, not even hate to say it. I'm just gonna give y'all the truth because that's what we do here at
That's all
Unc
it
Phrew.
is. It's
We
just the
give y'all
truth.
the truth. The best player on that offense is not Mahomes, it's not Kelsey, it's Rasheed Rice.
It's
He
Rashi
is
Rice, and
creating.
it's not close.
It's not even close. And we gotta, this is similar start they had last year. A lot of questions, but I don't see it this year. I don't know why, because I think the Falcons should have won the game, man. The
Oh yeah,
Falcons should have won that game. What do you
I
think, huh?
know. Yeah, no, it's crazy. All the analysts are saying what I said last week, which is
Mm,
which is that like Kelce is ready to bust out and ready to show everybody, etc. Well, I mean, it kind of has to because otherwise it's only Rashi Rice. But we'll
yeah,
see. We'll find out. People are starting to actually talk shit about Travis right now, and I guess with his
that's
girlfriend and all this type of thing, saying that he's not focused, etc., etc. So, like, we may see Travis start to show people some things, but until that happens, he's like the rest of the tight end position in fantasy football so far this year and in real football, just
mhm.
not doing a lot and upside down and mishy and mushy. And like, yeah, the tight end position is not like it's been in recent years.
Brother, look at his stat line for the entire season: 8 receptions, 69 yards, 0 touchdowns. He would do
Yep.
this in a quarter. In the first half of a football game, he would have this stat line and then finish
And
off with something crazy like 12 catches for
but
200 some yards.
Sam
Like what?
Laporta looks the same. I mean,
Yeah,
the only tight end that's really looked good consistently has been Brock Bowers,
Brock Bowers is really good. Yeah.
and McBride is starting to look better. But like
Mm,
no tight ends in the league I mean, likely looked like it the first week, but he hasn't done that
mhm.
since. So like none of the tight ends, there doesn't seem to be an elite tight end tranche this year in fantasy, which has been different from previous years. So it's a pretty flat pyramid at the tight end position this year.
Do you think it's maybe because they're running the ball a lot more? Like, and then the tight ends are more so being in rush pushing, they're blocking more? Because I don't know what it is that we haven't seen. It's starting
I
to come up. Like we said, the offenses are starting to get more rolling, but the running game has been big. And that brings me to a person you told me about that I didn't really peep that much. Carson Steele. He's another bright spot on that Chiefs
yeah
offense, but
yeah
a
he looked
very, very small bright spot in that Chiefs offense,
he he looked pretty good actually.
bro.
The last game, I think he had like 11 runs for about
Yeah. Mhm.
77 yards or 7 yards, something like that, or 50. No, I think it was like 17. Anyways, he got the
17,
bulk.
same, yeah.
He
Yeah.
got the bulk of the runs. So that was
Yeah, yeah.
reassuring to people in fantasy that he would be like the RB1 in that backfield as opposed to some frustrating committee of three
Yeah.
runners. So yeah, if Carson Steele had got a touchdown and they gave him a couple of shots within the five, but it didn't get in there. But if he had
Mhm.
fallen in the end zone last weekend with all that volume, a lot of people would be talking about him a lot more this week.
And interestingly enough, man, when you're looking at Carson Steele as a running back, we will see what happens when Pacheco gets healthy, or if Pacheco is out for the season. We're
I
not too
don't
sure.
think I honestly, and
Mm.
I have Pacheco, right? He's killing me.
Oh,
I
damn, you did. I didn't know.
right? Like that was
Yeah.
that was my RB1 that I drafted in like the second round or something like that. And so,
Mm.
anyways, let me tell you,
Yeah.
I do not believe that if he comes back, they're gonna keep him for the playoffs. Because I don't,
Smart move, yeah.
because I don't think by the time that guy is on the field again, we're gonna be in the playoffs in fantasy. So
Mm.
I don't think he's really going to come back and do much for fantasy managers this year. Carson Steele is your guy because they're using him in the same way that they use Pacheco, the same volume. And also, too, he does kind of run like Pacheco. If he can start getting in the
He's
end
a
zone,
power back. Yeah, he's a power runner. He's
he
not really
runs
shifty.
violently. He is a
Yeah,
violent
he is.
runner in the same way that Pacheco is. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with it.
Little funny story. Uh, Carson Steele had his first start. This was I believe it was the Sunday night game. His sister was getting married, so his family was actually displaying him at the wedding on like a big screen. They were watching. There was his sister's wedding, and then they were watching him play football. I think that was just a cool
Nice.
story to think about, man. You know what I
Nice.
mean? Your brother's getting his first start in the NFL, undrafted, by the way. So
Yep.
that's cool. It's cool to see.
Yep.
One
Very
thing that's
cool.
not cool to see is this horrible NFC East, brother. We got to
Oh my
talk
God.
about the Cowboys, man. It is hot garbage. We are reviewing last week the Dallas MF. Well, technically, this is week 4, but the Dallas MF and Cowboys somehow win the game 20-15 against the New York Giants. And you know what makes me very upset? This was a winnable game for the Giants, man. Everybody coming in, tapping in, get on the like button, get in the chat, let us know how y'all feel. What's your team to whoever you're cheering for? I do not believe in this $2 team. I neither believe in the
Yeah,
Giants,
neither do
but the
I.
Giants, I'm like, how could you fumble this game, y'all? You have a horrible
Uh,
defense that you can run the football on. You can put Daniel Jones on some read options, some RPOs. You can do a lot, but your main running back goes 14 carries, 24 yards. You let CD Lamb embarrass y'all. You let like Malik
well,
Neighbors got hurt. I'm like, that what is
let me.
going on, man?
I mean, like, what was especially disappointing about Devin Singletary was
Mm,
that, especially for analysts who were like, chalking up, how the game looked and all that type of thing.
yeah.
The Cowboys, obviously listening to all the other analysts out there, heard all the chatter about just how incredibly terrible their defensive line is versus the run. Right?
Mm.
So I expected Devin Singletary with his volume to do far better than he did. He had less than 3 yards per carry. It was really, really terrible. And I watched the game. Like Dallas just covered up all those holes for this week. But here are my notes for the game. All
Mm.
caps, 3 R's in the middle. Boring. Like it was just a terrible game. I did not
Yeah,
enjoy that game at all.
me
But
neither.
Dak had a clean sheet, 22 for 27, 221 yards, two TDs, no picks.
Mhm.
CD Lamb got his game right too. He listened to all the chatter as well. So everything you expected on narrative to get fixed for this week got fixed. So how often does that happen? Um, what did I also get? Yeah, Jones and Singletary were just really sloppy at homes. Malik Neighbors again looks like the only offensive tool in New York.
Yeah,
12 for 115. You know, zero TDs, so he didn't get anything, right? But
yeah.
no TDs, 5 field goals. Like, come on, man. Like,
What?
that's just terrible. Like, fuck off. It's one thing
And
if
my
you're
thing
the
is,
it's one thing if you're
if
the
you're the Steelers,
Steelers. It's one thing if you're the Steelers and you win the game like that.
yeah.
When you lose, it does not look good.
It's like this. You know what happened? They were going up and down the field, couldn't get in the end zone, man. And I'm like, okay, if you can't get in the end zone, at least have a really good defense that's gonna stop the other team from getting in the end zone.
No,
Win the field goal game. You know what I mean? We've
no,
seen it.
didn't
Big
work.
kickers matter. Did not work. Mr. Dak Prescott was eating. So was CD Lamb. And I just feel bad for Malik Neighbors because he was showing a lot of heart. He was playing with fire. He was like juking guys out.
He's
He
the
couldn't get in the
only
end zone.
piece. He's the only quality talent on that team. He's the
Yeah,
only major, top tier player on that whole team. So
I'm like, man, they got to figure it out, man, because I think Dayball is out, man. Like I said, my
yeah,
prediction is going to be, Brian Flores is going to be up there with the G man. And you know what? What's crazy? the Giants are actually a very, competent, team, but they've fallen so far from grace. My
Yeah.
thing is a team that's fallen really far from grace that we, I kind of saw it coming, but I didn't see it coming. The Niners,
Yeah.
injuries and everything. This was the upset of the week 3, where the LA Rams in the fourth quarter put up 13 points out of nowhere to beat the Niners, man. And Sean McVay is little boying Kyle Shanahan again. What
Yeah.
did you think about this fantastic game between the
Fred.
Rams and divisional game, by the way, Niners and Rams, man?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Fred Warner is the only really good player on San Francisco right now because of the injuries,
Yeah, bro.
and that's the next thing I want to tell you about as I watch that game. You know, the
Yeah,
late window, L.A. versus San Francisco. This is an ancient rivalry in the NFC West, and I sure felt like I was watching it. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is like, like we were talking about earlier when we talked about how the NFC West could be like the old AFC West. Like
yeah.
any team could win any given weekend. You're going to have this crazy game that looks like a rivalry game, despite what the statistics say, because like
Mm.
LA Rams, if you could see their injury list for the week that was put out, on the Thursday prior, it was just ridiculous before game time. Like there was like a
Yeah,
dozen people on that injury report. But
yeah.
so everybody says Kyron Williams is going to get boxed and just like beaten up because, everybody's injured and there's no receiving game and all that stuff. So instead, all Kyrie Williams does is just go crazy,
Absolutely nuts. It was great for
like,
fantasy. I have him.
like looking like Alvin Kamara, right? So, anyways, they did whatever was necessary to win the game. But let's be fair here. Let's be fair. San Francisco had the game halfway through the fourth quarter. They were driving, they were on their way, and they
Mm,
missed it. They missed
yes,
it.
they
They
did.
beat the field goal. They gave the ball back to LA. LA started doing what it did. And then, San Francisco just kept giving them a chance to get back in the game. And that's exactly what the LA Rams did. They got back in the game. And then, given the chance, they won it. Great game, though. Oh, man. What a great
Fantastic
game.
game to watch.
It
It
was
was great
the
to watch.
entertainment value. The entertainment value on that game was like one of the best of the weekend.
I definitely loved it. Everybody's picking up Juwan Jennings for their fantasy because he's
Yeah.
literally the only dude on the offense who's worth
Yeah.
anything. And who would have guessed this, man? Seattle leading the NFC West standings, Arizona just underneath at 1 and 2. It
Right.
is so open in there, man. And you know what? As great as the Seattle is playing, it is open as well. But we had a lot of shocks in last week's football. We had the shocker. This shocked me the most, in my personal opinion. I don't know about you. The Philadelphia, what are you gonna get this week, Eagles? Because that's what I'm gonna call them. What you gonna
Yeah.
get this week? Because ain't nobody know what they're gonna get with the Eagles this week. Shocking, the previously best team in the NFL. We're leaving them to 12 points. Philly winning 15-12. Brother, what happened?
Like, what on earth is going on down there? Because it's not like Philly's defense has been that good. We documented
Yeah,
that the week before. They're giving up like 23, 24 points a game or something like that. Like it's crazy. So apparently what happened there, the one weakness that apparently New Orleans really has in that offense is that their car is just bad against the blitz, and the Eagles are really good really good with the blitz, right?
yeah,
Because like New Orleans is still a good team. I mean, look at that; they kept Philadelphia to 15 points, right? So it
yeah.
was a very defensive. It was a very defensive minded game, simply because the blitz is very effective against Carr, and people are expecting New Orleans to have a very big game, a bounce back game this week. I think it was just an odd situation that the one weakness New Orleans has, Philly's really good at.
It really makes you think about styles of making fights, man. Styles make fights.
Yep.
And we have to be open for the conversation of Saquon being in that MVP talk. Obviously, offensive player of the year,
I
but
hope so.
it's clear
I
and
hope
above that
so.
this dude is the most important person on that Philly offense. He might be the most important person in Philly.
And I'm just sick and tired of, like, I mean, just, like we always say, it's like year over year over year, decade over decade, it's quarterback, it's a quarterback award.
Yeah,
And the one exception to that is usually, it's usually a running back or some
right.
ridiculous, yeah, some other ridiculous skill player. But it's usually a running back that has a really fantastic season that will
Yeah,
displace a quarterback for the MVP. So for Saquon Barkley to get into the MVP conversation would mean that he is having, an historic season. And I would love to see that because I love to see a great running back. Saquon looks awesome.
Saquon looks absolutely amazing, but you know who looks better than him? The Red Rifle. What? Andy Dalton. You
remember,
called this, by the
remember
way.
the
You
one,
called this. Yeah,
remember the one prediction I had last week that actually worked out because
it
my
worked out
lines and
perfectly.
spreads were brutal last week because no
I
one
was
could
talking to
figure
you
out
about that.
what the teams are. I did not have a good week on lines and spreads, but the
Yeah.
one prediction I nailed was that nobody touched the Panthers because I said, what's probably going to happen? What's going to happen? I said, you watch it. Dalton's going to come out and pass for 3 touchdowns and 300 yards. What did he come out and do? 336 yards and 319 and 3 touchdowns, right? Is the one thing. And it made all the rest of the offense take off. Chuba Hubbard
Yes,
had a
it did.
game.
Yes,
Deontay
it did.
Johnson had a game. Everybody had a
Mhm.
game when the quarterback can work.
And
So,
you know what? This man looked like the second coming of Dan Marino. What was going on with this guy, bruh?
right?
He was launching
So,
that thing. You know what I mean?
so of course, what I
Mm.
said has to be. Listen, didn't we say that Bryce Young is single now? Bryce
He sent.
Bryce Young should just move into Andy Dalton's house and just be and
That's his
just be a
son. That's his
and
son
just
now.
be apprenticed. Just get Bryce Young to move into his house and just see how it's done.
He's moving to the basement at this point, man. Bryce
Right?
Young, man.
Right? He's
We
gonna
we go
exactly. He's gonna be in the
young
basement.
fella. You gonna have to learn, man.
He's gonna be in the basement. He's gonna be doing
Yeah,
laundry. He's gonna be on a laptop looking at film. Right?
straight up.
Andy will tell him when he gets to come out.
That's basically it. The Red Rifle looking like prime Joe Montana, bruh. 80s level,
Wow.
bruh. But you
He
know what's
looked
even crazy? He
he
looks
looked
fantastic.
so good. Like
He
it
looks
just
so
shows
smooth.
you like what
Yeah.
proper quarterback play does for the whole rest of your game.
And you know what it is? Back to what we always talk about with young QBs. You're not gonna get a Jaden Daniels, y'all. You're not gonna get a CJ
That's
Stroud.
right.
Most young quarterbacks need to be apprenticed underneath a veteran, y'all.
And in
It is what it is.
fact, in fact, one of the most intelligent comments I heard from any of the analysts, and that was before Dalton actually took the field, and
Yeah.
that was that they brought Dalton into the Panthers not to actually win them games, but to apprentice Bryce Young. And
Right.
what does it do for Bryce Young if they just put Dalton out there for the rest of the season? Like it doesn't really help. It
Mm.
doesn't really help Bryce Young. Like he
Yeah.
needs to go in there and get better at what he does because of what Andy Dalton shows him during the week, right? So I don't
Facts.
see how Bryce Young improves if Dalton just takes over and, has a Joe Flacco season for the Panthers. So I'm not sure how they handle that.
I think it's gonna be very interesting to watch because obviously Carolina plays 10 times better with Dalton. Dalton could take them
Jesus
to the
Murphy.
playoffs and they could win a game. They could win a game. What does that happen? Does that make Bryce a trade asset, or do they run it back with Bryce next year? It leaves a lot of questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I,
Given the
you know?
given the draft capital that they put into Bryce Young, I don't see
Mm.
how they do anything other than whatever is necessary to turn him by any means necessary into a starting quarterback. They just have to, right? Because
They
otherwise
gave up so
it
much.
makes it look like they should have done none of that stuff and just signed Andy Dalton.
You see what I'm saying? It's like they
Right.
traded
It's like,
they literally traded the pick that turned into Caleb Williams for the Bears.
they
Like what?
they they turned the franchise, like they turned out all
They
the
flipped it
franchise
over.
draft equity
Yes,
to find out that
they could have picked up.
they could have just given this guy a couple $1 million.
Absolutely insane. That front office is stupid. It is what it is. Let's talk about a front office that's not so stupid. And another shocking wow, this is like four shocking games that we saw. I lost money on my parlays.
Yeah, man. Same
Everybody lost
here.
money. Who in the hell would have guessed the Tampa
This
Bay Bucks
this
would
this
be
score was
absolutely demolished? This
this
crazy.
score was supposed to have been flipped, right?
Yes,
We
yes.
expected the Bucks to score 4 touchdowns or something close to it, and Denver to have some, middling, puny little score. Either a couple of field goals and one fluke touchdown. Somebody fell in the end zone by accident, but the opposite occurred.
Yes, yes. It was absolutely a dominating performance by not necessarily Bo Nix, but I'm saying the Broncos team. The
No,
team
it's the
rallied around.
defense. Again,
Yeah,
it's the defense,
exactly the defense. Yep,
right?
you're absolutely
Because again, the Broncos know how to. Their pass rush is outstanding, and they can
right.
blitz. And yeah, it worked against Baker Mayfield.
I'm gonna say it like this, man. As we go into week 3, man, we're week 4. My bad for that. We gotta do, some lines and spreads, brother. We gotta do some lines and spreads. I want to hear what you think, what we should look out for, in terms of lines and spreads for week 4 of the NFL, of the games. What are you
Yeah.
looking at, brother? What are you looking at?
Well,
Maybe one
I
or two
saw some
games.
interesting ones. I saw some
Mm,
interesting ones. Um,
yeah,
the Bengals at the Panthers. This game we've
right.
just talked about that. The
Mm,
Panthers are at home and they're 4.5 point underdogs against the Bengals, and I think
mm,
that's just
mm,
too big. And I just think that the only way the Bengals win is by outscoring
yeah.
their opponents. And the Panthers, as we've seen, can score a lot of points too with Andy Dalton. So I'm
Mm,
thinking it's going to be a little bit closer than that. And I think it's going to be like, seriously, it's going to be like 33-30 or something like that. So definitely
mm.
take the over on the points.
Nice, nice. I
So
definitely like
yeah,
the over
that's
on that.
that's a the Bengals are an on the road favorite. So I don't see that. Um,
Mm.
the next one I think is very interesting is AZ. Arizona is favored by 3.5 at home against the Commanders that we talked about.
Oh, that's gonna be a big
So
game. I like that.
yeah, I think 3.5 again is could be a bit large, and I would take the
Yeah.
over again, 49
Oh,
points.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we got a road dog in the Commanders.
I like
Chiefs
it. I
at
like
the
it.
Chargers.
Big game.
Chargers are at
Yeah.
home. They got 7.5 points against the Chiefs. 7.5 points against the Chiefs.
Oh,
And what did we just talk about with the Chiefs? Have the Chiefs beaten anybody by 7.5 points? I don't think so.
no. No, not
So,
once.
and the Chargers, like again, AFC West matchup,
Yeah.
and they're playing better defense than they have. Herbert's a little
What's
bit
up?
dicey, but it's probably going to be a running game anyways, right? So I just don't see this being a lot of points, although more
Mm.
points than the 40 that they've got there. So take the over. But I'm saying give me the points with the Chargers plus 7.5
Mm.
against the Chiefs.
I honestly like that because the Chargers are a power running team,
Yeah.
and their defense is it's quiet. It's kept pretty good. So I
Yep.
can see this. I'm gonna go a little bit. I'm gonna say it might be an under, meaning it might be a defensive battle. I might take the
Yep.
under, but I'm leaning
40
towards
points.
Chargers
Right
slightly.
on.
But we'll see what happens, man. Any
I
other last game get your pique your interest,
Yeah.
brother?
Yeah, sure,
Mm,
buddy. Your Ravens. It's an interesting line against your Ravens.
huge, huge game.
2.5 points for the
Ooh,
Bills. The Bills are getting 2.5 points. Now they're on the road,
okay.
but
Okay.
even still, that still implies that they think that the Ravens will beat the Bills. And
Mm.
I'm gonna take the Bills in this one, buddy. And I'm also gonna go with the over, the 46.5, because I definitely think that there's gonna be a lot of points scored in that. And the only other one
Yeah.
I have to mention is only just because the point spread's so huge.
Let's talk about it.
49ers are traveling to New England. So the
Mm.
49ers at the Pats, 10.5
Yeah.
point spread. right? So that would have
Whoa,
made sense 2
whoa,
weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. 10 and a half
yeah.
point spread and a 41 point over under. So you know what to do with this
Hmm.
one, buddy. Take the Pats
Yeah, we've taken the under and the Pats. Yes,
and the under. That's right.
we're taking
This
the
this
under and
has
the Pats, bro.
this game
Yeah.
completely reminds me of that Cincinnati game where
Ooh,
the Pats,
interesting.
yeah, where the Pats came in and just turned everything upside down on the Bengals.
That was, I think, I was week one where we're like, oh
Yeah.
my god,
So
the
like,
Bengals did
I'm
this
I'm
bad while the Pats
expecting
did good. You know what I
I'm
mean?
expecting 10 and a half point cover here by the Pats and the under. So yeah, those are my
Definitely,
lines.
definitely.
Hopefully I'll do better this week than I did last week. 'Cause God
Hey
Almighty,
man,
please.
you know what it is? I heard some stats, like some betting websites and videos, that Vegas is winning by a lot, man. Bettors are having a huge slump this month. It's
Dude,
pretty bad. It's
dude,
pretty bad this
you know,
month.
what's her name? Christy Freeland, the ESPN analyst, with her own
Yeah, yeah,
modeling, her own betting models and all that type of stuff. Like she's
yeah. I
a
know.
pro, right? She's a
Very good.
pro. She
Mhm.
went 9 for 16 last weekend.
Oh,
So
9 for
yeah,
16. She's really good,
so
actually. She's usually
she
not that
well,
bad.
I mean, she's still, yeah, I
Yeah,
think she's like oh, I forget what the numbers were that she had on
yeah.
ESPN. It was some other line, but anyways, yeah, nine for 16. Yeah, but I mean, compared to what I did, I think I got six, right?
Man,
So
I don't even wanna say what I got, bro. I took so many
yeah,
L's.
dude.
But I will say this, brother, it is very hard. It's really unpredictable this month. I think things are gonna even
Yeah,
out in
the
October.
first month, the first
Oh,
month is
really bad.
insane. Yeah, you
Really,
get
really bad.
healthy in November.
You get healthy in November. And something that I want to just note, we've been getting a crazy amount of injuries by
Yeah,
players. So you have anything that you're guessing for your lines and spreads, you're under the assumption that teams are either kind of healthy, but you have to factor in the health of players as well. Because, like I told you, this San Francisco versus Patriots game, people are going to be shocked when the Patriots win, but the Pats can win because the Niners are not healthy, man. They do
yeah.
not have the guys. So
And
this changes how
Ayuk is
you make your bets,
underperforming.
man. Yes. Make your bets based on health, man. Look at the
Kittle is
healthiest
out.
teams.
McCaffrey's
Kittle's out.
out. Although
Debo's out, I believe.
Mason's been great, but we all know that
Mhm.
what McCaffrey brings, right? That type of
McCaffrey's
plus
the reason they
performance.
went to the Super Bowl. McCaffrey's the reason they went to the Super Bowl, man. He was the main
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
So we have to keep that in mind as you take your lines and spreads, man. Hey, and if you take your licks, man, take them well, bro. You know what I mean?
Right.
Make them
Right.
decide. Something that is a bit easier to predict, though, is fantasy football, man. We're
Maybe
talking
for
about our
you.
starts and sits.
Maybe for you.
I'm having a good run, y'all. I'm having a very good run, y'all. Let's talk about some fantasy football, man. Starts and sits. What do you see in, you know what I mean? What are you looking at, man, in terms of fantasy football? What are some trends? What are some,
Right.
you know what I mean, some things that we should look out for as we go on our matchups this week, man?
Right. So, yeah, and of course, I'm not trying to tell you the most obvious things. So,
Mm, mm, mm.
the names I'm going to drop on you right here are going to be, things that might be a little bit different, or might help you fill some gaps in your lineup and whatnot. So, I'm going to try to tell you something that's not obvious, right? So, let's
Got
go
you,
with some
brother.
things here.
Mm,
The first one is in the Tampa Bay backfield.
mhm,
What's his name? Rashawn White is looking like the third down back now, the passing back, because a lot of the
mm.
volume is starting to go to a more efficient runner by the name of Bucky Irvin. And the coach even came out at the end of last week saying, like, we got to get this guy more touches. So what does that tell you about Rashad White? Right. So Bucky Irvin, I'm not sure if you can count on him completely yet, but if you're in a deeper league, or you need an emergency start, or you need somebody who's gonna try to change the direction, the flow of your team this week, Bucky Irvin is a guy who might surprise. Yeah, he might be boom or he might be bust. We'll find out. But if he booms, he's going to boom well, and the coach seems to be indicating that he wants more volume from him. The other one, Dalton and all the Panthers, right? Because that's definitely a change. Because up until this point, we've been, it's been a bit spotty for any of your Panthers starters. Deontay Johnson, Chuba Hubbard, and Andy Dalton should all be started. And that's a bit of a change. The other one that looks good this week is Roma Dunze, possibly, even in Chicago, because they're playing Vegas, which has just been terrible, and Max Crosby's out. So, possibly Caleb as well, too, but I don't really talk about Caleb that much. I mean, there's other names out there, but he looked better last week. But Roma Dunze looks like he might do well this week. Um, the Tennessee defense against Miami, I think that might do something well for you. Brian Robinson for the Commanders, looking like a decent team. Maybe even McLaurin too, finally. For a tight end, maybe Gesicki and maybe Kincaid. Both have good matchups where they look like they might be in a place to do well today. So, the Houston receivers, Shaheed, who got shut out by Philly last weekend. Chances are he'll bounce back against again this week against the Falcons. So Shaheed, he got blanked. I know a lot of people are going to be discouraged as him as one of their flexes or their wide receiver twos this weekend. I don't think you should be shy. I think that Shaheed will probably bounce back and do well. I have to make a coin flip myself in my flex, whether I put Jerome Ford in there against the Vegas runs or whether I put in or whether I put Shaheed into my flex. So I have to figure out which one of those guys is going to do best today. So interesting stuff right there. Now, sits. You're interested to hear about some sits? I think the Oakland offense is going to be terrible. So I think Zamir White is probably a lot of people want to make him their bell cow. I just don't see that happening. Sit any of your Jags against Houston. Like I don't think we stressed this enough at the time when we were talking about Trevor Lawrence and Peterson and the Jags in general, because I knew we were going to be coming back to this point in fantasy. Like Etienne can't be trusted right now. Christian Kirk can't be trusted right now. Evan Ingram can't be trusted right now. And Brian Wilson, who looked like he was going to be a fantastic, rookie wide receiver, can't be trusted either right now. In fact, he's the only player that you could hopefully, possibly put out there. But until I trust Trevor Lawrence again, the Jags are not viable right now. So, yeah. Jared Goff, I should say, for Detroit. Good quarterback on a good team, but Detroit hasn't been putting up a ton of points, and they're going up against the Seattle pass D, which is like the second or third in the league. So I wouldn't take Goff. Detroit might win. Goff might be a good game manager quarterback, but I don't think Goff puts up a ton of points this week. And the other one I want to point out there for a big change in Seattle is in the backfield. Kevin Walker III will be back, so he'll be taking on the main role. And Zach Charbonnet, who was fantastic last weekend in Kenny Walker III's absence, will be going back to his support role. So don't expect 25 points again this week out of Zach Charbonnet. Okay, so that's important if you had him in your starting lineup last weekend. Take him out. So yeah, those are some of my starts and sits in fantasy.
I like it. Zach Charbonnet has been really, really good, but Kenneth Walker III is RB1. And if you can somehow pick him up, if he's available in leagues, I will start him right away. Because like we said, that Seattle offense, it's still pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's still pretty good. And they rely
They want to
heavily on
run.
the run.
They do want to run.
They want to run. They commit a lot to the run. And I will say this, it's a little bit shocking, but we have passed our whole runtime, man. We have all the subjects hit in less than an hour. I'm impressed.
Alrighty.
Are we gonna bring up back OT with Unc Phrew overtime?
All right, now what you got?
Yeah, man. I do not overtime with Unc Phrew. You know what I've been really into recently, man?
What's that now?
I've been really into Lawrence Taylor, bro. Lawrence Taylor, man. LT.
You're kidding, huh?
I wish I was like I saw a documentary, like a football life about him, and I kind of wish I was there in the era and watching football back then. In OT with you and me, brother, what are your thoughts in like your retrospectives, man? As the OG, as somebody who's been watching ball for years, what are your thoughts about Lawrence Taylor, man? Because I saw this interview with Belichick, and Belichick talks glowingly about he talks about
Hmm.
LT better than he talks about Brady, and I'm like,
Yep.
what? But he
He's
loves LT.
yeah, he is a similar Bill Parcells
Mm,
treated Lawrence Taylor the same kind of way that Belichick, loved Brady for sure. The
mm,
thing that was unique about him was that he was on the defensive side of the ball,
yeah.
and the Giants and Bill Parcells won with defense. So
Mm,
Lawrence Taylor is a different kind of player. And I mean, he played football so well on the defensive side of the line that this guy actually won an MVP for the entire league. Like, I don't think that's ever happened. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's the only time ever. So you're talking about a guy who's the best football player on the team, and he's on
mm,
defense. So he led the team through that. So, and he was also a very charismatic player. He led the team in general. He's like the Michael Irvin, he led the party guy as well, the party time as well too, right? So he had all kinds of vibes all over that team that he was responsible for, right?
mm,
So he was the leader. He was the big leader on that team, and it was just amazing. And this was also a period of time in the '80s, especially the early '80s, when you were allowed to play defense a little bit more physically than you can play now. And also,
yeah.
too, the sack statistic was just starting
Mm,
to come out in the early '80s. I think it was 1982 is when they started counting it. So
mm,
he looked incredibly, remarkable. Him and guys like Mark Gastineau were getting,
mm,
20, 22, 23 sacks. So,
mm.
like, yeah, more than anybody's getting now. Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So, and now, like, these guys played like so prolifically, so intensely on defense that if they were allowed to play like that now, like I just don't think teams would be scoring more than 15 points a week. And I don't think that you would have to expand the roster to, 60 players because people would just be getting too injured too often. So, yeah, because remember, the biggest thing you saw in that documentary, probably the most famous or infamous thing that happened with him.
Joe Theismann. Mm.
Well, yeah, besides the cocaine and the young girls and all that type of stuff, is Joe Theismann. Because there was a
Yeah,
Monday night game
yeah.
and everybody saw it. Everybody knew it for years. It was like they didn't know to not show it on TV at that point because no one had seen an injury like that before. It was so like he ruined Joe Theismann's career at that point. He
Wow.
came along the line like this far off the ground.
Damn.
Okay, and he hit Joe Theismann, and he just snapped his lower leg, and it was just
Oh,
gross and gnarly to see on television. It was just awful. So yeah, I mean, he put the guy on Monday Night Football out of the league for good. Like
wow.
that's just how incredibly they played defense back then. And
Wow.
it's yeah, so they that's why they can't play defense like that anymore because
Yeah.
with what they're playing quarterbacks these days, you can't just like take 150 million dollars worth of committed money to a quarterback and he'll never play again. So
You're right.
it made for a very interesting time in the '80s when defense was at a premium and Lawrence Taylor was the man. He was the guy in
Mm,
that defensive conversation. So yeah, he led him to a couple of Super Bowls in a way
yeah.
that only quarterbacks normally do. So pretty amazing stuff.
It was just so cool because you see the duality, meaning that he was so intense on the field, and then you find out the stuff he was doing off the field, and you're like, what? Did you ever turn that off? He
Yeah,
obviously did not,
he
you know what I
didn't.
mean? He
He
didn't,
didn't.
which is a problem, but also on that controlled environment of a football field, that's what you need out of your defensive guy. That's what you
Yeah,
need.
yeah.
You need
Well,
that intensity,
and
that go hard, but you don't need it off the field, unfortunately,
he
man.
went too far, right? Like he did too much cocaine, and he did
That
it
way,
too intensely, right? So a lot of guys like that, they're all or nothing guys, right? In addiction as well as sports. So
right?
yeah, it was difficult. Lawrence had a bit of a troubled end of his career and all that type of thing, and he's gotten better as the years have gone by. But he had some issues. He had some issues, but
Mm,
that's how it goes with greatness sometimes, right? You're on a whole other level on every other level.
that's definitely true, man. I just think like you look at just my last point about this or what I think about this. You know, of course, we do miss a bit of the physicality in the game. You know what I mean? But a Lawrence Taylor individual in this era would be way too much for the league, man. Every
Oh,
weekend, somebody would get hurt. It will
oh
be them,
yeah.
and even if the league is softer, there's a slight argument. I want to get your points on this, and then we're gonna wrap it up. There's an argument that because the game is slightly less physical, obviously there's less physical practices, less padded practices, um, and obviously, quarterback are very protected. That in a way that might have made players in this era get a lot more soft tissue injuries rather than, and you see like the injury report is a lot bigger these days because the muscles or the body is not getting calloused enough in order to participate. So that's a theory. That's a theory. But also
That's
the other end is
fascinating.
that you know what I mean. Like let's say you're in the gym, you're lifting weights, your muscles get stronger.
Yeah.
You're
That
breaking
that
up some.
that's uh
So
that
that's the
that's
theory
an
I heard.
interesting theory. That's an interesting
Yeah,
theory,
like
but I mean,
look,
unless you play 10 other Lawrence Taylors on every team, every
yeah,
play, so I'm
yeah,
not sure. I'm not sure. I would have to read that to find out. But
yeah.
the one thing I would say is that if and this is what we were talking about before, is that if we're like sticking around consistently playing, like if we're even dropping right now 23 to
Mm,
22 to 21 points a game and whatnot, like
mm.
what would we be playing at if we had that type of defense playing around now with the type of
Oh
speed
yeah,
that
it'll
we
be
have
way
on
lower.
defense now? I think
Yeah.
that maybe defense, if we had to see if we had to see what the offense would provide if the
Mm,
defense was allowed to be played with the speed that we have on defense
yeah,
nowadays, with
yeah.
guys like Lawrence Taylor in modern bodies, like I said, would we score anything more than field goals?
I think it would be an interesting thought experiment because the rules are so swayed towards the offense. If we gave the defense a bit more leeway, I think the scores would go down, obviously. But I
Like
think
to
maybe the
15
quality
points a
would go up.
game.
I
Like
think I think
if you
yeah.
allowed modern
Mm,
talents, defensive players with 4-5 speed on the
right,
line,
right.
but playing with the physicality and intensity of Lawrence Taylor. Like
Wow.
nobody would, like, everybody be injured. The game would be completely between the 20s, right?
Yeah, I
Like
would. Yeah, I would. I think there's a theory. I don't know, man. I wasn't there in the '80s. I see highlights. I see things. I don't know why, but I maybe I'm nostalgic. I think the football might have been better back then, man. If we're looking at generation wise, what do you think, Unc?
Oh yeah, no, of course, right? Listen,
Yeah.
listen. Phil Simms on that New
Mm,
York Giants team, who was not
right.
playing Lawrence Taylor, obviously, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Maybe
in
it's
a Super Bowl, that guy went 22 for 25 for like 250 yards, like played a
wow,
perfect game.
wow.
So, right, so like
Mm,
it's cat and mouse. You go back and forth, right? So like
right.
Phil Simms had to be that tight because of the
Mhm.
defense, right? That's why you
Yeah.
saw so many quarterbacks that weren't throwing for 400 yards a game and whatnot, and more like 250 and all that type of thing. Like you see the quarterbacks like this month playing all season long, right? Guys
Yeah.
like Joe Montana, 2,500, 2,750 yards for the entire season,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Because you have to run the ball
Hmm.
because otherwise the defense is gonna run you out of there.
I
So
think it's really
that's how you have to look at it, I think.
I like it, man. Yeah, I like it. We did any maybe any Giants fans are watching us. We went deep on y'all team. Shout out to you guys,
Yeah,
man.
we
Over
did.
few. We got a little history lesson from Unc regarding the defensive monster, quote unquote. Some people might even call him the GOAT
Hey,
linebacker or
man,
defensive player.
listen,
Huge, huge figure in the world of
he's
football.
not he's not alone, man. Another guy like Ronnie Lott, that's a
Mm,
safety, right? Say
yes,
he's a
sir.
safety rather than a middle linebacker. But Ronnie
Yeah.
Lott's got incredible stories. Like one time he told the team doctor would like to cut off a piece of his damn finger so he could like keep playing the game. Like
What?
these people, yeah, these people put
What
up
the?
with pain. These people
Wow.
put up with pain so that they can
Wow.
play the game at a championship level. Yeah, man. Look, next documentary, watch Ronnie
Mm.
Lott. Like that guy's a
Oh,
truck. It's like
I'm gonna
he's
definitely do
another
my homework.
guy. He's another guy that could never play like we like defenses play now.
Crazy, man. And you know what? That's the best part of our show. That's why I'm biased. I love our show, man. We give you that time, we give you that
Give you that
history,
old school.
that old school flavor. You feel me?
I'll tell you about it, man. I'll make that connection, right?
Yeah,
Between Justin Fields and the 70s. I will tell you where that old school meets the new school and where
oh
they
snap.
intersect, right? So yeah, that's why it's good to have an old man on your podcast.
Hey man, we need our Unc, man. Unc needs to give us that game, and he gives us that game. And we're gonna watch the games in about 45 minutes, man. I
You know
appreciate
it, buddy.
everybody
You
for
know it.
stepping in and tapping in. Any last words, Unc, before we make some moves, brother?
Nah, man, just looking forward to those games. Can't wait to see what Pittsburgh does in Indianapolis today, boy. If any team's
Oh,
going to make Justin Fields look like Ben Roethlisberger, it's Indianapolis Corners.
it should be fun, y'all. Appreciate
All
y'all for
right.
tapping in. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
big day. Unc
Can't wait to
football.
see can't wait to see your Bills Ravens game too, man. I'm looking forward to
Oh,
that.
Sunday night football, y'all. You know we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have a party. I have tomorrow off. I'm chilling. You know
Oh,
what I
right.
mean?
Nice. Oh, nice. So you're going to be watching all of that game. You're going to be watching the Island game all the way to the end.
Bro, I'm gonna be glued to the screen, screaming on top of my lungs. I'm gonna
Right
piss.
on, buddy. That's gonna be
Big.
a hella game, man. It's gonna be a hella game.
I'm so excited because you know what? This is gonna be a real test. It's gonna be a real test. See where the Ravens are at because we know where the Bills are at. The Bills
Yeah.
are arguably the best
Well,
team in football right now. It's
The
gonna be
Ravens got to come back, man. Ravens got some
yeah.
work to do, and this is the game where it starts.
My thing is, I better see Henry get 25 carries minimum. We need 25
Yep.
carries minimum. I need
Yep.
Lamar to go Lamar Jackson because I
And
don't trust
10 of
my
them in the
defense.
fourth quarter. And 10 of them in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. Oh man, this has been so fun, man. Appreciate
All
y'all for
right.
tuning in. We'll catch y'all next week. It's been Unc and Phrew, man, and we out.
All right, buddy. Next week.